School of Addiction. Tonight's topic is Silence is the Gateway to Relapse. For those who are new to my channel, my name is Ashley Bloxham. I'm a therapist. I specialise in childhood and trauma. I'm also an addictions counsellor. I've overcame addiction. I think that's the most important qualification out of all of them. I've studied it right the way up to PhD level. And I also know what it's like to have a loved one who's struggling with addiction also. So let's get into tonight's topic. Silence is the gateway to relapse. We all know that addiction thrives in secrecy. And it's important that when we start to have this little voice raise this little head and starts to try and trick us into, or we'll just have one line, or we'll just have a drink, or we'll just go on porn, or whatever the addiction is. It's important that we sit there and just ask yourself some questions. So this tool is called Name It to Tame It. We're just going to name exactly what it is. This is a little voice and it's trying to trick us. And then just say, okay, what does this little voice, why is it coming up? What does it need? Is it bored? Is it stressed? Is it because I'm around certain people or environments? So just literally sit there and talk to it. That will engage your prefrontal cortex, which for people who come to my channel all know, this is where impulse control, the part of your brain that is responsible for impulse control. So just name it to tame it. The second thing, and you don't have to do this, but it's just a rule, have the tell one person rule. So you have to sit there and say, okay, I can do it, but I need to tell one person, and it can't be somebody that you do the thing with. So for me, if I was a ketamine addict, I can't phone up my other kethead friend. If you name one person and tell that person, and you don't even need to do it, but just sense how you're feeling in your body. Because if you were skitzing out about telling someone, not your addict friend, someone different, then it's enough just to shock you and think, okay, yeah, if I'm worried about telling them, it's because I know that realistically it's not a good idea. Because if you knew it was a good idea, you wouldn't be feeling guilty about telling that one person. So just, it acts as a circuit break. Both things do. Name it to tame it and tell one person rule gives you a little second to not act on impulse, but just stop and think, okay, hang on a minute, is this a good idea? And when we start to ask ourselves, is this actually a good idea? Have some ideas on hand, some really shitty times, and just remind yourself, because that's where you're going to go back to. So just say, do we want to go back there? Or do we want to tell one person? Or do we want to just name it and tame it and just not do it? Because really, it's not going to be a good idea. Let's be real. Okay, let's see what people are saying. Hi, Chris. Remember, if you need support, reach out to Ashley via email for her website. Link is in the bio. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch, please do. Hi, Cormac. How you doing? It's been a while since I've seen you. Good morning or evening, if you may, in the UK. Megatron, how are you doing? Nice to see you again. Yeah, so addiction does thrive in secrecy. It really does. And we all know this. And it's not just about thinking, okay, I'm going to have these little tools which will act as circuit breaks. Maybe we actually need to tell people who we care about and say, look, I've got a problem. It's accountability. Or if you don't want to tell people that you're close to, then go to groups. This is where groups really shine. This is where having a sponsor, but even if you're not at the point of having a sponsor, just turning up to a group where you've got other people there who can hold you accountable. And the thing is, when we get past that initial thought of I want to do it, and we do some kind of tool or technique, then we've acted as a circuit break, and we're literally so much more likely to not do it, especially if somebody else knows about it. And you're going to feel so much better if you just ride that wave and get through it. You really are. And it's especially important around Christmas time, because we're going to have a lot of triggers coming up, which a new year as well, a lot of triggers coming up, which is going to make that little voice come out and say, okay, let's do the thing. Maybe we've got time off work that we wouldn't usually have, or we're going to parties, there's a lot of social events. So it's really important that we do have some little tools on hand. I don't think addiction recovery solely relies on tools, but they're definitely important part of recovery, and they're especially needed in times like this where it's just a week or two of absolute triggers. Let's see. Cormac saying, doing good, thank you. How are you? I'm doing okay. I'm a little bit tired. I've been Christmas shopping today with my son, and it was carnage. We're also in the bus, and the bus just went round the corner, and my son like rolled off his pram and was crying. It was a big drama. So he's just screaming. But yeah, I'm good. I've also set up a tent. So me and my son put up a tent every school holidays, and we'll go camping in the sitting room. So I'm sleeping in the tent with him tonight, which is quite cute. I had a cigarette addiction, Megatron. What was your top tip of getting over your cigarette addiction? What would you say to anyone who's trying to quit, hit it and quit it? Hit it, then quit it. We don't want to be hitting it anymore, do we? Jeff Dog, you're very beautiful. Thank you. If someone implements this idea, how do we go about actually reaching out to someone? That pride is hard to break through. It really is, Chris. I really struggle to open up to people. So the first people that I started talking to about it was when I went to NA groups. That was the first time I ever said out loud that I had an addiction. It actually took us a couple of groups before I'd even say it. Obviously the people who, because I had a drug addiction, the people I was addicted with, they were the first people I said, like my friends I used to get wrecked with. And as soon as I said I'm struggling in addiction, they all said, yeah, me too. So the best people to speak to about addiction if you're struggling to open up is to speak to other people in the same boat. And even that can be hard. And I was already training to be an addictions counsellor, and even I found it hard. It was just so much shame. But addiction really does thrive in secrecy. So if you've only got yourself to hold you accountable, and let's be real, it gets to a certain point or the trigger gets a bit too much, and then we end up just relapsing. So it's important just to say out loud, because a big part of addiction recovery is something called change talk. So we sit in denial. That's where we just push it and pretend it's not happening, sweep it under a rug. Everyone in addiction is there at some point. And then in counselling terms, we look for something called change talk ambivalence. So it's where we start to acknowledge, actually, I've got a problem, I'm not enjoying it, I'm kind of edging towards stopping. And part of that change talk and that ambivalence, which is going to get you through to the next stage, which is actually making the change, is through language, saying it out loud. So this is where just going to groups where other people are talking about it, we can start to think, actually, maybe it's time for me to say it out loud. So it's surrounding yourself with people who are struggling with the same addiction, and then getting the courage to say it to them. And they're going to be the best people because they've been there. So there's going to be no judgment. You're not going to sit there and judge somebody else for addiction when you've been through it as well. So yeah, and there's addiction groups for everything. So I did NA for a little bit. I didn't get sober off that, but the reason why I talk about them is they've got so many different groups. So they've got ones for gambling, ones for sex addiction, Narcotics Anonymous is for drugs, Alcoholics Anonymous. There's some other ones. There's ones for like love addiction, I think. I don't know what that's called. So you can literally do them online as well. So it's a bit like this. So you can sit there, just a name that you make up yourself with no face until you feel brave enough to do it. Megatron, I started to smoke when I was 11 and stopped when I was 24. My advice is to never stop trying. I tried to stop 1,000 times and stopped 1,001 times, and to find something to do, not to think about it. Yeah, do you know what it is? It is so disheartening when you think, oh God, I'm going to stop, and then you realise you can't. Actually, that wasn't as easy as I thought, and then you try and do it again, and it gets so demoralising because you could start to quietly accept your fate that, okay, I'm addicted to this thing. And it's so true. So many people have been like Megatron with whatever addiction it is, and you've just got to keep on trying and just learn, okay, why didn't that work the last time? And sometimes it is because we're not involving other people. Sometimes we need to accept that we can't do this alone. But yeah, and it's so good what you said, have something to do differently. So it's really handy if the thing that you do that's different, if you have a couple of things, one which is something you've never done before. So because sometimes when we associate it with when we do something that we do when we're addicted, we can associate it so it can feel a bit bittersweet. So something that you've either not done before or something that you don't do when you're wrecked or whatever your addiction is. So for instance, say for instance you like to go for nice walks, but normally you get baked and go for a walk and you've got a weed addiction, you're not really going to enjoy the walk. It's going to feel like a trigger because you're used to doing it. So try and do something you don't do. Whereas if you used to go for a walk and you don't get baked, then lean into that, or try and get a new hobby and interest, because you don't want it to feel like a trigger, is the thing I'd say. Hi Psychedelic, how you doing? Javed, you in Liverpool? No, Newcastle. If it's been a bit of a running joke this morning because everyone just calls us all different accents, like ropey accents from the UK. Do you eat avocado? I do like avocado, but I'm autistic and I don't like the consistency of fruit and vegetables. It just icks out. Like if you get one that's a little bit odd consistency. You in Biker Grove? No, but I used to live next to Biker, right around the corner from it. Yeah, it was like literally at the top of my street. Chris said to Megatron, absolutely, to keep fighting is very crucial. Getting back up. The only thing we should never do is quit fighting the good fight. Yeah, you just gotta keep on trying. And if it's not working, go back to the drawing board. What do I need to do differently the next time? Okay, that didn't work out, but what did I learn? We can learn just as much from failing as we can winning in anything in life. Foxy, I said, now then, support network. What? Yeah, support network is so important. We do need a support network. And this is why the groups can be really good. But I didn't actually get sober in a group, but I had a group of friends, a really small, close-knit group of friends who would just ride or die. They didn't judge us, they didn't shame us, they were so supportive. And I remember I found a bag of ket in my house that I'd lost. Was hunting for it for ages, and it turned up in the most random of places. And my friend had said to us, I'll be your sponsor. So just anytime you need us. And I just sent her a photo and I was like, I found this, I'm not going to do it, I'm just sending you a photo so that you can ask us tomorrow. So just having someone to keep us accountable was really helpful. So it doesn't need to be in a group, but it just needs to be people that you feel comfortable enough to say, I've slipped up, but I don't want to slip up again today, or somebody to say, I found this, so I'm really struggling. Just like some people who have just non-judgmental, understand you and have got your back unconditionally, and that can be in any way, shape or form. But yeah, it's really hard to do it by yourself, guys. I never managed to do it no, I did manage to do it by myself, that is a lie, but I relapsed every time. Right, let's see what else people are saying. Psychedelic, I painted a picture 3 hours today, I'm not finished, it helps me be clean. Yeah, if you're creative, start creating stuff. The first thing I did when I was sober is I started writing poetry. I hadn't written poetry since I was a kid. Then I wrote an article and I got it published. I just sent it to it was to Counselling Directory. So I was a counsellor and said, do you want to publish this? And they said, yeah. Like, just do, if you're creative, it's so good because you can do something and then you win and you've got something to show for it at the end, and you can just get all your energy out into it. But if you're not creative, sport's a really good thing. Just anything where you're doing this progress and you can literally clock the progress. If it's quantifiable, do that. Javed, Geordie, Pal, Whitley Bay, Sunderland. Yeah, I've been to Sunderland. We don't talk about Sunderland. We do not talk about Sunderland, but I'm a Geordie girl. And yeah, I love Whitley Bay. My nana, granny and grandpa used to live in Whitley Bay. My grandpa was a vicar there. Right, Foxy, bath, fitness, hobby and supportive person. Yeah, I love a good bath. I always get stuck in them though. I get like to the point where I'm like wrinkly. It hurts to walk after. I get a bit too like, it gets, if I have a bath too late and then I'm like, oh, I can't be arsed to get out. Tipping on the hot tap again. like literally hours. Yeah, psychedelic, a picture of what, and what kind of art is it? Like, what kind of painting do you do? Like watercolours, what different... I love doing watercolour paintings. Right, alternate account, how's your hair so nice? I'm just blessed with good hair. I have to say, it's just dead easy. I don't do anything with it, I just go to sleep. Megatron said hi, hello. Mike, how you doing? Poisons, what about poisons? Tall Tree nightclub, Hotel Yom. I used to do Dance on Stilts in Tall Trees. I used to work for an entertainment agency doing like fire, stilts, burlesque, dancing, and he used to send us all over. What's the numbers on my hand mean? So they're spiritual, like ages of spiritual significance for us. And then this was a manifestation, which is 11/11/35. So I basically, when I was 35, I've got that tattooed into us, and I did like little wishes when they were doing it. Right, so, and it was about finding my life purpose. So 60 juice, I'm trying to quit 7OH. What's 7OH? Juice. But if anyone's struggling in addiction, you want some support, just go on my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk, and send us a message, and I can do a free one-to-one. I've got some space over the next the crazy week between Christmas and New Year. I've already filled up a few spots, but it's first come, first serve. Yeah, so if you want us to one-to-one, but what is 7OH? Is it an opiate? Good afternoon, sis. Oh, double tap, how you doing? Nice to see familiar faces. Hope all is well. Yeah, it's good. I'm tired, but good. How are you guys? Javid, go to the gym. Yeah, Great North Run. Great North Run's something really good. Just something where you've got something to work toward. You can even do the Couch to 5K. Strava, there's so many different things. I do jiu-jitsu, martial arts is really good. Just anything where you're getting endorphins and dopamine is really good, and you can see results. If you can do something where you've got other people there as well, that's really good. So that might be a class at the gym or yoga, just anything where there's other people, but contact sport. Josh Gay, the Valleys. Lumen, Sin, are you an addict? I'm recovered. I was an addict, but I'm recovered now. I was addicted to ketamine, but I honestly didn't have a sober day for the whole of my 20s. I tried my first drug when I was 14, I think, about 14. I smoked weed. In fact, I just remember the first drug I tried, quite embarrassing. It's now, I won't say who it is actually. Somebody I've known for a very long time, and I ended up bumping into him on a street corner, him and two other people, and they had some tack, and they asked us what you do with it, and I didn't know, and we were just eating it. We literally started chewing on it on the street corner, and I just had tack stuck in my teeth, and I was probably about 12, 13, and it just did absolutely nothing. Quite funny thinking back. But then I started smoking weed probably about 14. Drinking 14, 15 at house parties. And then I think I moved to Ibiza when I was 19. But I'd been taking a lot of coke before that. And then I moved to Ibiza when I was 19, and I came back and it just started getting more and more regular. I think when I got back from Ibiza, I was pretty much drunk, stoned, on coke, pills, ket, anything, but I've never tried crack or heroin or like opiates, which I'm glad about because I dread to think. But yeah, so yeah, I was an addict. I'm recovered now. I don't consider myself an addict or even in recovery. I feel like that is a past life. Right, are you from Australia? No, I'm not. I'm from Newcastle in north of England. Josh Gay, how you doing? Nice to see you again. But in the real world, you have to deal with all the variables. It's better to face everything head on. That's my opinion. Yeah, but I think it's also with addiction recovery, it's good to be aware that, well, with anything, we do need to face everything head on. Like that is, everything. I always face everything head on, but it's also good to be aware of our limits. We don't need to face everything head on right now. And especially when we've been in addiction recovery, or maybe we've had like severe anxiety or PTSD, or bipolar, something where it just feels out of control, like our brains are in control of us. It's like a silent assassin. That can feel really horrible. And sometimes it's good to take control back and say, okay, I am going to deal with it head on, but I'm going to do it on my watch. I'm going to do it when I decide. I'm going to set some time aside, or I'm going to work on my resilience or my emotional regulation before I do it. But I'm going to set myself the goal and I'm going to do it. And it's not about not being scared. It's about being aware of your limits. It's about working towards it and then just being courageous. And honestly, if you face things head on, you start learn who the fuck you are, and it's a good feeling. Like, you start to think, actually, you know what it is, I am some boy, some girl, like I've surprised myself, and it's a nice feeling. So yeah, agree, Josh Gay. A double tap. Avocados is peak. Yeah, it's just I've had one which was like brown and soggy, and it was like had a little bit of brownness, and it just put us off. It's me autism. I'm just like too like ugh. It's like sensory stuff. It's made us feel weird thinking about it. Right, anyways. Head in the game, Ash. Cool Durham, Foxy man. I live in Durham at the moment, actually. Right. Emma Irish. Who's Emma Irish? Hi, Michael. How you doing? Shark Zoo. I feel the same way about blueberries. Oh, don't get us started on blueberries. My worst fear, like, I don't have fears. I've told you, if I have a fear, I face it head on. The one fear I refuse to even address, it's been a phobia since I was a kid, and it's baked beans. Like, I couldn't think of anything worse than a rogue baked bean just on my table or something. Ugh, yucky. So beans, bananas, and blueberries are right up there. Right, I dislike it when they're soft and I just don't. Right, we're stopping talking about fruit. I'm going to get one of me mods to ban you if anyone mentions fruit and veg trays. I don't mind cooked vegetables and food. But that's it. Right, autism is super common these days, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's always been quite common. Looking at my family anyways, I don't think I'm the first in the family with it. Might be the first with the diagnosis. I saw something the other day, and it was talking about autism, and it was this autistic lad, and he was going, autism is new, is it? He was like, never had autism before. And then he was like, Darwin, travelling all the way to an island to study a certain type of bird, not autistic. And he's like, somebody in the 1800s writing an encyclopedia about fungus. That wasn't autistic, was it? So I think it's just, so the statistics say that, and it's not up to now, it was like the latest I could find, but I think it was up to 2017 or something. There was a 700 and something % increase in diagnosis, but I think it's more the fact that we're starting to recognise it, and that's probably more because of the internet. So, and women as well, women are much better at masking, and a lot of the studies were done on men. Turns out we've also got a touch of autism. So yeah. Right, anyways, let's get on track. Has anyone got any questions about addiction or mental health, instead of just my fucking mental health, my mental state? Right, especially men have such a hard time opening up about their struggles. Listen, there are guys out there that have been through what you're going through now, so that they can help others. Yeah, men do really struggle. Yous do, and I feel so sorry for yous. And I think the thing is, groups can be especially good for men, because men really need camaraderie. It's something that is being dismantled. You know, you haven't got the same camaraderie. Like, men used to go to work together. There would be a workforce of men. And I think that's really lacking, especially, you know, we're just becoming more and more individualised. And I think that's one of the biggest struggles. And actually groups can provide this, like going and having a group of men and talking to men and opening up, even if there's women there as well. I think men really struggle at the moment. And just because men aren't used to opening up doesn't mean that you can't. It's just yous are at a little bit of a disadvantage, because when they look at brain scans, typically men aren't wired up the same way as women. So women are, from a neurobiological stance, find it easier to talk. But you can create neural pathways, and it's just about doing it, like Chris says. And just practicing. You know, if we want to create new neuroplasticity, we need to practice. Superman, have some flowers like daisies in your hair. You look beautiful. I can't be chewed on with that at 9 o'clock at night. Get real. Like, come on. I'm in my dressing gown, for God's sake. I haven't got time for daisies in my hair. Can you pick up your feet and scrunch your soles? No, not. That's not what I'm here for, guys. I'm not here to dress up in daisies and scrunch my soles. Has anyone got any questions about addiction and mental health? Right. Is that you in the graduation picture in the background? It is. That was in my graduation of my first degree. I don't drink, not very keen on it. Yeah, I'm not. I drink and I just get such bad beer fear these days. I've cut it out for a bit. I'm toying with the idea of, do I want to be teetotal or do I want to drink on certain occasions? I'm kind of like going through a bit of a process on deciding that, but I just get such bad beer fear from it now. I used to drink like 1 or 2 bottles of wine easily. Wouldn't even touch the sides. Hi, Guy, how are you doing? How is life? George Baldwin, hello, are you from Newcastle? If so, up the tune. Yes, I am. Technically from Sheffield, but I've lived here most of my life. I'm from Birmingham. I used to have a little brummy friend when I lived in Ibiza. Psychedelic art, it's a little bit with markers and black fine liner. You can see a lot of animals and other stuff. Oh, I love that. Oh, you'll have to send us some of it. Are you selling it psychedelic or are you just doing it for yourself? You should get an Etsy page. Well, you shouldn't. I don't have to tell you what to do, but yeah, that's a real baby deer head. Yeah, I'm veggie. I don't like to eat them, but I like to stuff them and put them on my wall. Right. My therapist said today to me, you can't heal addiction and drink again. I say it differently. 2026, I had to stay dry. Can't heal addiction and drink again. Look, you can. The thing with doing it, so you had a weed addiction, didn't you? Like, if I remember correctly. So for me, I've just literally said the same thing there, and I'm addictions counsellor. So for me, alcohol isn't an addiction. It's just something that I've always had like an on and off. So I've got bipolar, so I can always tell now when I'm in an episode that, oh, it might be I'm going into a low. So usually I go through stages of drinking every day, and it's usually a high or a low. And my psychiatrist pointed that out because I've always had on and off, just kind of binged on alcohol for a month or two in my life, and it's actually to do with my bipolar, I found out. But I've just not. Alcohol's not great for us. I'm not the. Yeah, it's not something that I need to be doing, and it's something I've decided not to. But I don't. For me, abstinence doesn't need to be what I do, because for anyone, abstinence doesn't need to be the end. And I've done a lot of different types of addiction training, and 2 different points of training that I've done. But I've been told that abstinence isn't always the solution. It's really important to know that because it's such a myth. However, the thing with abstinence is, if we decide, okay, I want to socially drink, say we use alcohol as the example, I want to engage in my addiction socially, that might work for some people, but it might not work for you. And the problem is, when we're trialing and erroring this, there's a huge risk, because we might say, okay, I only want to socially drink, so I've stopped drinking and I want to do it socially. The problem is, you might have that social drink and then full on relapse. And then that means that you're now dealing with one or 2 months, 1 or 2 years, a decade, or never getting off it again. So it's such a high risk, and it's about, do you want to take that chance? So that's the risk of it. But Yeah, I agree with you, and so does research. Abstinence doesn't always have to be the option. It's up to you. And psychedelic, if you can have a drink, which I'm sure is not even your addiction, then like ultimately you know you best. So I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I am going to say, everybody, you know you best. Right. Sean, it's not always best to sentence yourself to sobriety, as they say. Yeah, it can. The thing is, like, we don't always have to do it. We can do something called hard and fast rules, which is you make it something whereby it's so few and far between and you're so boundaried that it's going to be hard for it to be reintroduced to your life. You can do something where if you're going to do it, you tell people that you're doing it, because like I said at the beginning, secrecy is the gateway to relapse. It's always wise to have a good gap between it, but also I'd say we need to make sure that we've got a really good life. We've got, like, we're working on our internal world, we're working on our external world. It is a game of Russian roulette though. Like, I will say that it's a game of Russian roulette and we've got a lot of bullets in the gun. So it's up to you whether you want to play Russian roulette. But yeah, I'm not gonna, I don't want to like say, because I don't want to be the reason why someone relapses, but there is, yeah, there's, it's like you say, it's not for everyone. Abstinence isn't for everyone. And also we can fall into this all or nothing trap. I think that's what Sean is trying to say, like that if we're doing all and then we fall off the wagon, then it goes to nothing. Whereas if we say, oh, well, I'm only going to have it in these really limited occasions where I'm telling people that I'm doing it and I'm making sure that I'm with people the next day and I'm not falling off the wagon and I'm really boundaried and my life's amazing and I've worked on my mental health, then that can feel, okay, well, if I do have one, I'm not fell off the wagon and gone and relapse, I'm just having one, and now I'll go back to my baseline. So there's arguments for and against. And I just don't want to sit on any side of it, to be honest. A good start for me, Shauna said, is to start with 90 days, take it from there afterwards. Yeah, look, 90 days as well. I would say anything, I would definitely get them 90 days in, because the first 3 months are crucial. And after 3 months, things will start to get easy. But I would say don't just remove the addiction for them 90 days. Really spend every single one of them days working hard on yourself. Really taking stock of your life. Who's in your life? Who's going to be helpful to your recovery? Who's going to hinder it? How do I talk to myself? How can I love myself better? All these different things. Recovery isn't just removing the thing. It's making sure that you're really working on your internal and external world. Yeah, Bobby, rehab takes 3 months. Yeah, there's good reason. A lot of research, 3 months is super important, your first 3 months. So I think of 3-3-3. Your first 3 days is going to be physically the worst. Like on your body, that's where you're going to feel like utter shit. You're going to be struggling to sleep. It's going to be really tough. And look, this is a ballpoint, so it's not exactly 3 days for everyone, but roughly. Your first 3 weeks is going to feel like you're walking around with a bloody cloud hanging over your head, like doom and gloom, and it's going to feel like it's never going to end. That's because you've got zero dopamine going in. Like, your dopamine receptors are fucked, and you're not flooding it with dopamine with whatever it is that you're addicted to. After 3 weeks, your dopamine receptors start to sort themselves out a bit. And then by 3 months, that's when the intensity of the craving should have came down and everything starts to settle. But this is the thing with 3 months is when everything starts to feel a bit better, this is where the cockiness can come in. And we don't equate for cockiness. I'm just going to celebrate. I'm feeling great now. I can just have that one drink. I can just do that one line. I can just do a little bit of gambling. This is where the cockiness comes in. That's where I've got to tackle that. So yeah. Dylan, I'm an alcoholic looking for rehab. Do you want to arrange a one-to-one and I'll see what we can do for you, try and get you signposted to somewhere. If you do, go on my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk. As Chris has said, it's on my YouTube page and I'll try and get you signposted to somewhere. The thing with rehab is there is a lot of waiting list, like there are waiting lists. But I am doing a group which is starting in January, which you're welcome to join while you're waiting, and we'll try and get you into at least a waiting list and you can join the group in the meantime. Is California sober a thing over there? No, is that something to do where you're sober but on weed or something? But no, it's not. I was sick for 3 months coming off methadone and wasn't mentally right for 2 years. Yeah, I can imagine that. So it takes up to 2 years for your brain to fully recalibrate, especially from, like, some people recalibrate earlier, but by 2 years, everybody is. So if you're on methadone, that means you've probably been on heroin, I'd imagine, or opiates. So that's quite an intense addiction. And then we're having methadone, which, look, is also intense for the body. Just because it's prescribed doesn't mean it's great. So, like, I had huge withdrawals off my antipsychotics and mood stabilizers. Like, it was pretty fucking scary, actually. So, but it can take up to 2 years, especially if it's a long addiction and it's something really heavy like alcohol or heroin, crack. Drinking is a massive trigger for me. If I drink, I think I can use again. Yeah, and this is the thing. So I had to cut drink out for a long time before when I got sober, because it was a trigger. And I had to cut drink out. And then I only allowed myself to have a drink when I was with people who knew that I had an active addiction before, who I knew wouldn't entertain us getting wrecked. And that I still had to take a long time before I did that, and I started introducing it. So we have to introduce triggers into our life, not necessarily alcohol, but there's some triggers we do have to introduce into our life, and it's about doing it in a controlled way. So letting people know, like, right, I'm going to be facing a trigger head on tomorrow. So, like, for me, that was alcohol. It could be, like, maybe you've been in rehab and you're coming back home and you're going into your house. Okay, I'm going to be facing the first time in my house alone. Or maybe you've got kids and it's the first time your kids are staying out, or whatever it is. Lucky saying, tell you what can happen to us, new drugs that come out, resting or mental health. What do you mean by that? I don't quite understand what you're saying there. Right, I'm going to scroll around in the middle and stuff and see what other people are saying, just try and give everyone a fair chance. The cons outweigh the pros with using drugs the older you get. Yeah, I think using anything long term, the cons start outweighing the pros. But yeah, it is. I think anything takes its toll on you more the older you are. Like, anything, even like just the basic of things seem like sap the energy out of us. I had, like, my friend's daughter the other day. She's like 21. And she was talking about eating because she's a vegetarian, and I was like saying how I've got to be, like, make sure I'm getting all my micronutrients and stuff, and she was like talking about how she's a bit blasé, and I was like, look, you can be blasé about anything when you're 21. like your body's got your back. When you're like 36 and like nearly 37, like anything in your body fucking starts screaming. Hi to Denmark, how are you doing? I used to date a Danish boy when I was younger. Oh God, I'm very young. Psychedelic, first place weed I smoked like a train. Because of trauma I was smoking, but I will decide every month to say dry. Dry January isn't the beginning. I was polytox. What's polytox mean? I don't know what you mean by that, but yeah, it is often addiction is linked into trauma. It's very common. Not everybody who has addiction had trauma, and not everybody who had trauma has addiction, but the correlation is huge, the links between them. because it's a form of self-medication. Like anytime somebody says to us like, I've got an addiction, and then they say PTSD, I've got PTSD, or this happened or that happened, it's like, of course you've got an addiction. Like I can see why that's happened. I'm quite tired, guys. I'm gonna give it like 10 minutes. I know I haven't stayed on long, but it's Christmas time and it's been intense. I've been Christmas shopping as well, like my social battery's drained. Right, I'll do 10 minutes though. So I say it like this: if you use again, you use again. It's life, but I'll try as hard as I can to not. Yeah, there's a lot of people who talk about this one day at a time, because sometimes saying never is really, it's just so overwhelming. And getting overwhelmed puts us into fight or flight. And the first thing that we want to do when we're feeling in fight or flight is lean for the thing that makes us feel secure and grounded and relaxed, which is addiction. So all or nothing, this saying never can be really overwhelming. But equally, a lot of people say just one day at a time. And I find that so like flimsy. Like I do just one day at a time, like great, I'm just doing one day at a time. Like that just sounds like, it doesn't sound very protective. It sounds like I'm walking on a knife's edge, like one day at a time, tomorrow I might fall off and back into addiction. So for me, I like to think of one day at a time with a plan. And this plan is a trajectory, you know, a trajectory towards recovered, done, not my life anymore. So that looks like just doing one thing every day toward a recovered life. So it's not for recovery, so it's not like necessarily I'm gonna do this one tool or tip. It's about, okay, what would somebody who is living the best life, who wouldn't dream of taking drugs or alcohol or gambling or porn or whatever your addiction is, doom scrolling your life away, what would that life look like? And just taking one step every single day towards it, just one little thing. And honestly, I made this deal with myself. It was one thing a day. I started off with a 21-day challenge, kindness pact with myself is what I called it, and it was 3 years ago. And every day I do something for myself, and I'm just in such a habit of it now. I'm just always doing like lush things, whether that's saying something nice to myself, saying no to somebody, doing something self-care, checking in with how I'm feeling, just something positive. Yeah, so anyone try that 21-day self-kindness pact? Right, Jim Long. Relapse and slip are lovely fluffy words. When you are on a slab, they don't tell your relatives it was relapse or a slip. It's drink or drugs. If people drink again, it's just selfish. What do you mean by that? When you're on a slab, they don't tell your relatives it was a relapse or a slip. If you drink or drugs, if people drink again, it's just selfish. It's not selfish. Look, I've had loved ones who've struggled with addiction, and I've been severely hurt by it, like really, really, really hurt. So like, I know what it's like to be, and that's why I say it, like I understand what it's like when somebody is in addiction and you just like, can you not choose me? Like, why do you keep choosing this thing? And this is why I wanted to be an addictions counsellor before I got an addiction. Like, don't get us wrong, I used to get wrecked and pissed all the time, but I didn't have an actual addiction, one where you really, an addiction is a problem that you want to stop, that you can't stop. So like, I know it feels like that person's been selfish. I had that feeling until I had addiction myself, and it's not something selfish. The person who is in addiction does not want to be doing an addiction, and I cannot describe to you how fucking scary and traumatizing and horrible it is when you're waking up every day thinking, I don't want to do this, and you can't stop. It's not something selfish. It's something that somebody's doing because they don't have the capacity to stop. They don't have the right tool because they're themselves traumatized, or they've got undiagnosed mental health disorders. Like, if you look at brain scans of people who've got ADHD or repeated childhood trauma, if you look at their brain scans of them, they don't create the same amount of dopamine as the average person. So you might find somebody who's got childhood trauma, or who often is like is most susceptible to addiction, or somebody who's got ADHD, they're actually doing whatever the addiction is just to get the same amount of dopamine as the average person. Some people are just numbing pain that they've got, like physical pain, emotional pain. Addiction isn't just something that they're doing to piss people off. And if they could stop, they would stop. And I'm not saying that to shame you, I'm just saying it because it's true. So I know it's really painful for you, and I'm not saying give them a free pass to like hurt you, because I've been hurt by people in addiction. It's about having boundaries with them, but just trying to also have some empathy that they're not doing it to be selfish. Anyways. But if you want to have a one-to-one, we can talk about, because it sounds like you're dealing with somebody who's had addiction. We can absolutely talk about it, because I've been on both sides of it. So I really do understand what it's like to be on both sides, and I'm trained on both sides. So if you'd like a one-to-one, go to schoolofaddiction.co.uk, and then we can talk about boundaries, how to help support you in that situation. There's a lot of services which I can get you into, which help loved ones. But I think also just like educating yourself on addiction, because all the research says it is not something that somebody's doing on purpose, and it doesn't happen out of a vacuum. It's not somebody woke up today and thought, oh, life's a bit boring, I'm just going to sprinkle a bit of addiction in there and just mix things up. It's happening because they're self-medicating for whatever reason. Right, Josh, I can't really talk to counsellors that haven't been an adult if they can't empathise. Do you mean addict, not adult? If they can't empathise with me, then I don't really want to talk to them. Yeah, this is the thing. I was scared to even show up to NA meetings and AA meetings for people who were going through addiction. Like, you hold on so much shame. And the problem is, like, look, somebody said it's selfish. That's not their fault for saying it's selfish. It's because as a society, you know, we look at policy, it punishes the individual. It should be a welfareist issue. And it's just like there's a lot of stigma around it. But yeah, it is really hard to go and tell a counsellor, because there is this stigma that you're doing it to be selfish. And realistically, when you are an addict, you know you're not doing it to be selfish. You know that, like, I actually can't stop this, and it's terrifying. And that's why often we don't want to talk to somebody who's not been through, because they just can't possibly understand what that's like. And I didn't understand before I had an addiction. And I used to say exactly the same things about the person who I loved. I used to think, why can't they just stop for me? It's selfish. It's shit. Just stop. Think about the people you're hurting. And it was just, I just didn't understand it. And you can't. So yeah, I get that. Wow, I didn't know that about childhood trauma and dopamine, yeah. And it's the same with ADHD. So ADHD is actually when your brain is developing under constant state of fight or flight. And you're just not getting the right amount of dopamine. So you are physically self-medicating. But also even people with PTSD, I can't remember the statistics, but like people who are veterans are like significantly more likely to have addiction. There's just so many different reasons why. But addiction doesn't happen out of a vacuum, and there's no evidence that suggests that. All of the evidence says that it. So there's a big thing. There's like ACEs, which I talk about, which you could, if you want to do it, you can go online. It stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. But to put it into perspective, okay, and I've spoke about this before, so sorry if someone's heard it, but the largest study that they've done to date on addiction was with 20,000 participants, and 2/3 of those participants, all of them had an addiction to heroin. 2/3 of those 20,000 people who had an addiction to heroin had experienced childhood sexual abuse. 2/3. 90% of them, I can't remember the exact, but nearly 100% of them had experienced child abuse. So like what this tells us is that nearly every single one of those heroin addicts had experienced some form of child abuse. Like 90 odd out of 100. And we're sitting there saying it's selfish. No, these people have been severely traumatized. Like 2/3 of them have been sexually abused. And there's the reason why they've then gone on to do it, and then they're getting blamed saying you're being selfish. It's your fault. Like you shouldn't have a safe space to go and do it because it makes our neighbourhood look bad. You're accountable for it. If you're caught buying it for possession, you deserve to get a criminal record for it. You deserve to be called scum. It's disgusting. And it's not people's fault, the average person who's saying it's selfish. It's because policy is saying it. Policy is blaming the individual. And when policy is saying it's the individual's fault, instead of taking accountability, that actually these are the kids that slip through their net, who they fail to protect, we're actually going to punish them later down the line. It's so sad. It really is. Anyways, I'm getting all passionate and ranty, but this is why I'm doing what I do. Because like people, it's not about shaming people who think that it's selfish, because that's the way we're taught as a society to view addiction. It's actually the fact that it's a systemic problem and we need to break down stigma. So yeah. Hi Lee, how you doing? I've been asked if I'm Australian, Irish. From Liverpool today, we've had a new one. Hey. Anyways, let's see. Is it okay to ask what addiction you managed to overcome? Of course, no shame here. So I overcame addiction to ketamine. So I used to take, I basically, so I've experienced sexual abuse, not childhood sexual abuse, but it was with, it was like my first sexual partner, and it really traumatizes, but I didn't really realise. I've also experienced like childhood trauma as well. So the whole of my 20s, I was basically under the influence of something, but my addiction, the one that I wanted to stop and couldn't stop, was ketamine. And it was getting to the point where, and I'll not go into it too much because I spoke about it a lot, but like it was getting to the point where it was like affecting my bladder, which if I'd continued would have led to having a catheter. I was relapsing when I was pregnant. I relapsed twice when my son was up to 8 months old. So it's really fucking scary. And trust us, I wanted to stop every day. I used to write notes to myself. Like I used to wake up every morning and I used to write notes to myself saying, do not buy Ket, you hate it. I used to cry every night about it. The amount of times I've tipped my Ket down the toilet because I'm just so sick of it, and then an hour later I'm ringing my dealer. It's just horrible. It's just not a nice thing to deal with. I'm sure anyone who's struggled in addiction can relate. But I'm just gonna call you Books. I'm just now dealing with the fact that I was abused as a child. I've blocked it out, but my behaviour at the age I was, a child should know what those actions are. I'm just mind-blowing how much it applies to me. Yeah, so my addiction started, right? So I was training to be an addictions counsellor because I had people who I loved who and my idea was if I could just start, like, help one person not be an addict so their loved ones don't have to go through what I went through, then I would be making a difference in the world. And I went to do my counselling training, and the first time that my PTSD got triggered was I was sitting in class and I was learning about trauma, and I was like, oh my God, this is me. And I was like, and then all of a sudden I started having like PTSD flashbacks. It started coming up, and then I started like really struggling mentally. Then I'd already took drugs recreationally, and I started taking Ket, and I started talking about the stuff that was coming up for us in uni and stuff. And I started talking to my friends, and it felt like a safe space. And then I was just doing Ket every day, and it was helping us through it. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I've done Ket like every day for like weeks and weeks now. And I think it was about 3 weeks or something. And I was like, I need to not get Ket tonight. This is going to end up becoming a problem. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll just not get it tomorrow. And then I was just like, oh, and I knew there was a problem and just thought, oh, just not deal with that. And then it was just like, the only way I can describe addiction is like quicksand. Like when you start to realise you've got an addiction, you start to freak out and thinking, oh my God, I've got a problem. And then you're like, I can't stop. So then you just want to get wrecked or do the thing so you can make yourself feel better about having an addiction. It's just awful. Lee, you're extremely talented. You have to go through it, survive, but then explain the science behind it, and that's the art. Yeah, I believe everything happens for a reason. I genuinely think, because I'm spiritual, I'm not going to push my faith, and I'll not spend too long thinking about it, but I decided I want to be an addictions therapist, and I feel like the universe was like, oh, you want to be an addictions therapist, do you? Not with that attitude. Here, have a little sprinkle of addiction and say how you're getting along. Because I literally developed an addiction whilst training to be addictions therapist, and honestly, I think I would have been a really fucking shit addictions therapist if I hadn't have had an addiction. Does ketamine have bad withdrawals? No, it doesn't have physical withdrawals. I did one of the times that I quit my addiction, I didn't realise I had underlying bipolar at this point. So I ended up triggering a bipolar episode, like a psychotic episode. Obviously, because I was already done my training, I knew that that was drug-induced psychosis, which can happen even if you don't have bipolar. But it's a psychological addiction. Josh, ketamine to me is like a party drug. MDMA must have been crazy to have used it every day. I've seen documentaries in the UK. Ketamine is a lot more common over there than here in Australia. Imagine, it's really, really addictive, ketamine. Really addictive. But look, I know somebody who's been addicted to MDMA and took MDMA every day. I know people who's addicted to MCAT, weed. I've seen people destroy their lives on so many different things. Dylan, can alcohol cause psychosis with antidepressants? Alcohol can cause psychosis by itself. So I'd imagine with antidepressants, yeah. I forget the actual name for it, but yeah, you can get psychosis through alcohol, regular alcohol use. Hazel, you're incredible. I hope your story and advice reaches more people. Oh, thank you. I just feel a little bit well up there. Thank you. Gotta be with yourself. I've been down these roads. We can chat. Yeah, it is. You just gotta learn to love yourself. Like, that's the one thing that I did, just day in, day out, committed to loving myself. And I did get I reached out for support, and I fully understand why people, I understand why people think that let's shame the addict, because it's tough love, they're scared, they don't understand it, because I did the same thing to the addicts in my life. So I fully understand. But yeah, I got called a disgrace of a mom, and it was really horrible. And I had very few people in my corner, and I had to pick myself up and just learn to love myself in the trenches. And it's the best thing that ever happened to us. I'd argue addiction is the best thing that ever happened to us, but I'm lucky to have got out of it. Kevan, Subsinox here. Is that what you're addicted to? Is Subsinox the thing that you have that stops you from taking heroin? I feel like it is. If you'd like some support, Kevan, you can go on my website. I'm happy to do a free one-to-one with anyone, and I've got a few more spots for one-to-ones because I've got some childcare coming up. So if anyone wants some support, you can. And I'm doing a free addiction group that's starting in January. Kevan, pills, never heroin. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people who come on my channel who say that they have had an addiction to Subsinox or do have an addiction to Subsinox. It's a lot more common now, I think, opiate addictions, in terms of pills as opposed to heroin. Lead Pasha, what's going on with the topic you're discussing? So I always do a topic in the beginning, and then I just do a Q&A. I just answer whatever people throw it is. It's like a fast fire. So I'm an addictions therapist. I'm a therapist, but I specialise in trauma and childhood and also addiction. So I just answer questions on mental health, but I've worked with every type of topic you can think of. like pretty much everything. And so I'm happy to just answer any questions. I know it's hard to get hold of therapists. I'm not a therapy. This isn't replacement for therapy, but I can certainly answer questions. Have you ever had a dream you're I'm a dream and is there more to that? One, whatever your name is. Dylan, I've answered that one. Oh, have you ever had a dream that you're an animal? If so, which? No, I haven't. But I had to describe it, right? So let us know, guys. What would you describe it? This is a counselling thing. So when I did my counselling training, you have to do a lot of what's called personal development. And one of the questions that they asked us we had to do was describe yourself as an animal and why. And that's meant to be an insight to your psyche. So I remember I said I was like a turtle. A tortoise, sorry. And we didn't know that we had to say why first. We just had to say what animal you was. And I was like a tortoise. And then they were like, after why? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I had to break it down. I was like, probably because I have a little softie, but I've got a really hard shell. Things right. So what's people's animals and what does it say about your psyche, your little subconscious? Lead Pasha, New Year's resolution would be cutting down sugar and coffee and cigarettes. Yeah, cutting down sugar's good. Cutting down is a really good way to go about something. Just take away half a spoon first. And just little achievable goals. These are the kind of goals you need, like cutting out sugar from coffee, like a goal that you can actually hit for New Year's resolutions. Cigarettes, I don't do New Year's resolutions. I do them on my birthday. So at the age of, I'm going to do XYZ. And this year I was going to do boxing. I ended up doing jiu-jitsu instead of boxing. So it was right faff on to do boxing. And the other one was smoking. And I've got until March to quit. But I'm actually going to quit with my addiction group. So I'm going to do it with yous. Whoever's in my group. I'm dreading it. I've successfully quit smoking 0 amount of times, but I've quit smoking many a time. Tommy, did you know that blue cheese has got a natural form of penicillin in it? I've heard that. I love cheese as well. I'm pretty much vegan at the moment, but I've been toying with the idea of introducing cheese back in my diet. Maybe a bit of blue cheese might be the way forward. We don't have fentanyl in Australia, still heroin, which is probably the lesser of two evils. Yeah, there's not... Look, there probably is a lot of fentanyl in the UK, but it's not something that I heard as much in the past. I'm starting to hear of it more and more. Do you find people with addiction to something tend to be addicted to multiple things? Cigarette, food, energy drinks? Yeah, absolutely. You tend to get multiple addictions. And look, let's be real. Everybody's addicted. We all have our vices, and it's to do with dopamine in our brains. So dopamine, we're actually wired up to go and get the thing that we want. We're wired up to pursue sex. We're wired up to pursue, it's meant to be like sugar, for all different things. So the dopamine is what makes us go and do things. It's the neurotransmitter in our brain, which motivates us to go and seek pleasure and reward. And they did this study with rats, because quite similar to rats, and they took the dopamine receptors out of the brain, and the rats, they put food in front of them. So here's the rat, here's the food, and the rats didn't even get up to get the food, they starved to death. So dopamine, it's the same reward circuit in our brains, which it's hijacked, the drugs hijack. It makes us produce dopamine. So we're not really addicted to the thing, we're addicted to dopamine first and foremost. And then it's like the psychological addiction is the stuff around it. So everybody has their vices. We just judge people for drugs, addiction, gambling, and porn. Everybody's addicted. We've got a full nation of people addicted to social media. But yeah, there's lots of other addictions. Gabor Mate talks about being addicted to buying classical records, and people laugh at him, and he's like, but I was. And I fully believe it because, you know, that is just the nature of dopamine. And everything's so accessible now. It's not meant to be accessible. Like, if we look back to our ancestors, we didn't have drug dealers. We didn't have porn on the internet. We didn't have all these different things. We didn't have, like, got millions of sugar in shops everywhere you look. Anyways, I said I was going to stay on for 10 minutes. I'm tired. Here delusion. What delusion we're talking about? What race are you? I'm pure English rose, me. I've got freckles and ginger hair. English as you get. I think actually I'm adopted, so might not be fully English. I'm not adopted, sorry, that was an absolute lie. My dad's adopted, so I don't fully know where I'm from, but I think London. Anyways, ADHD, low dopamine, terrible disability. Yep, I have ADHD. 50% more likely, or 500 times more likely to have an addiction to substances, which is drugs or alcohol, if you have ADHD. And that's just drugs and alcohol. Like, there's a lot of other things we can be addicted to, as we've just said. So yeah, and the thing is, when you get diagnosed with ADHD, they put you on, it's like they put you on clinical grades, essentially speed, methamphetamine. So yeah. Lisa, I know only too well. The big one, I'm addicted to doom scrolling YouTube lives. Yeah, do you know what it is? It's like pick your poison, guys. You know, people, you can be addicted to, I still have my little vices, absolutely. And with ADHD, I need to rotate them as well because I get bored of the same thing. But I just try and do positive things. Check myself before I wreck myself these days. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna go. Josh is saying, my memory is still really bad from methamphetamine and Valium. Really, really bad. I thought I had early onset dementia. Have you tried doing memory stuff, like you know, brain training? Like, you can do a thing with meta to improve your memory. But look, I'm not an expert on this. I would ask ChatGPT or you know, go on Google or whatever. But you can do memory training things where you can, like, you sit there in bed at night and try and remember things in, like, some place you've been that day, and try and, like, remember different things in your mind's eye. There's, like, loads of different things you can do. I wonder if that would be helpful to you. But look, this isn't my forte. This is just me kicking out ideas. Like, I don't fully know that, Josh, like, what to do about that. But yeah, because I had aphantasia. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, where basically when some people, it's like a cognitive type, where when you close your eyes, I didn't ever see anything in my mind's eye. It was just black. And I thought, well, I don't like that. And one of the reasons why is because when I did KET, one of the things that I loved was KET holes. So I thought, right, I'm going to try and train myself to be able to see my mind's eye. And I just kept practicing. I learned how to do it, and I kept practicing every day, and I can do it brilliantly now. So I can create my own little keyhole in my brain, which I like. So I do it meditating and before bed. Anyways, I'm starting to get very tired, guys, and I don't like to stay on when I'm tired because I'll just start chatting shit, like giving some crap ideas. It's not ethical. My brain starts to get a bit crappy. But it's been lush speaking years. I am going to be here on my days and commitments over the holidays. I'm going to be here on Christmas Eve and Boxing Day, which is my usual days. I go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m, 9 p.m, and GMT time. If anyone's left a comment, I haven't picked it up. If you're watching and you want some support with addiction, then you can go on my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk. It's really easy to use and it's fully confidential, and I will get back to you, not always straight away, but I always do reply. Anyway, just go away, Lee. He's saying she's Welsh, man. Get over it. And anyway, see you later, guys. And if you could give us a subscribe, that would be really helpful as well. Right, bye.